Next, I call Deputy Colm Keaveney. You have 10 minutes.
Thank you, Cathaoirleach. The sneering, arrogant, spin-addicted side of this government has been on display over the course of the last number of weeks, and particularly it has unfolded around the Siteserv and IBRC issue. The contempt that has been shown to anybody in this House who has aired a difference to the government, who has tried to secure accountability, has been palpable. And the government either treats opposition deputies in a run around the block. If you look at Deputy Catherine Murphy, she had to ask 19 separate times the same parliamentary question to get the answer she wanted at the outset. Or alternatively, the government simply refused to cooperate. All we have to do is remember only in the last number of days the Taoiseach's recent comment around the toddle along and move on to one opposition deputy in the House. And indeed, mentioning the Taoiseach, where has he been? While the country, the streets of this country have been occupied with a discussion around Siteserv and IBRC, where has the Taoiseach been? And we have a situation where, the so-called leader of this country has nowhere to be found with respect to this issue. And, his silence is either a sign of very poor leadership, a man that's acting under advice, or a person that's simply refusing to comment on a deep friendship he has with one citizen in this country. And perhaps he is reflecting on the laissez-faire approach or attitude that's evident in the Labour Party, whose views seem to be best summed up when Deputy Joe Costello, a former junior minister, said, in the first instance, it is up to the media to uphold the Constitution. And that's a quote. It isn't up to the media to uphold the Constitution, it's up to this Parliament. And government seem to believe that securing freedom of press, reporting on matters of public interest, including the right to report what is said in this Parliament, has nothing to do with the government or this Parliament, and that it's a battle for the print media, it's a battle for the state broadcaster to establish in the courts. And happily for the Taoiseach, of course, the FAI, it upcycled a story around a €5 million payment, and this became a bread and circus issue over the course of the weekend, a significant whipped-up distraction, where the €5 million scandal in FAI was used to distract from the activities, including a debate around €119 million as a write-down in Siteserv. Cliff Taylor on Saturday in the Irish Times attempted, I think, to frame the context of this debate by categorising the scale of the grievance as only being a government not closely watching what's happening within the department and within IBRC. And I don't agree with Cliff Taylor. I don't agree with the Irish Times, and I think, in fact, that the concerns relate to a suspicion that there is a strong, quiet political influence from Fine Gael in particular, or for some individuals within Fine Gael, not all, with respect to one citizen in this country and the influence he has with respect to, favours and becoming a favoured person within society. Now, 3 weeks after becoming the Taoiseach of this country and in command of a self-proclaimed democratic revolution, we were promised, I quote, by the Taoiseach, an opportunity to sever the links between politics and business once and for all, and in doing so achieve 3 goals: stop the further pollution of society, re-establish a moral code and an order regarding public life in this country. And against these 3 backdrops, I have to say that the Taoiseach and the country have failed abysmally. Cathaoirleach, for the second time in our history, Fine Gael and Labour in government have enriched the same person. And that's a decision that has been made by this government subsequent to 2011. And the population, the society, they have seen a situation where the actions that have taken place in the past have been repeated under this government and under the partnership of this government. And no doubt, Cathaoirleach, there is a dangerous political nexus in this country where media, a political party, a political movement, and a significant effort on behalf of one particular media movement in this country to support one political party. And that's an issue that we have a concern with, because simply they ignore any negatives and accentuate the positives. And clearly, the moral code and the order that the Taoiseach spoke about at the outset in 2011 has been damaged by a cynical abandonment with respect to commitments and promises that were given to the Irish people prior to the general election in 2011. And all of this, Keaveney, has increased public cynicism, and it's without doubt, it's damaged politics, the perception of politics in this country. And people have become quite cynical about this government, particularly with respect to the broken promises. And in fact, you were intertwined again with somebody who has been enriched a second time by the coalition. And that cynicism, you know, it reduces this Dáil to a minimum authority with respect to morally considering another commission of investigation, because we already have a situation where criminality was uncovered in the Moriarty Tribunal. And in monetary terms, we have seen the largest single act of public corruption confirmed in that commission. And where is the Gardaí investigation? Where is the Criminal Assets Bureau? Why aren't the DPP seeking to prosecute as a consequence of the outcome of the criminality that was identified in Moriarty? And what we have is a situation where Moriarty found that Dennis O'Brien, the man that cannot be named, had links to Fine Gael. And there was a former minister that sits in this House, who had managed to secure meetings in the corridor of power with the now Taoiseach Enda Kenny and indeed Minister Richard Bruton. So, you know, what we had is a situation where large sums of money left Dennis O'Brien to Michael Lowry and Fine Gael. That is fact. And yet we have the audacity to come into this House and discuss a new commission of investigation when we have a situation where the Moriarty Tribunal and report is gathering dust. And what we have now also is a situation that, a question that has arisen with respect to how we report on this forthcoming commission. And we will see a clampdown on analysis, on Oireachtas debate, like we see in Fennelly. We can't answer or ask questions in this chamber with respect to the clampdown on the process. A blanket has been put over it. And the government parties, you know, you made the noise when you came in 2011. You know, not long after the publication of Moriarty, we had a government immediately engaging with one of the protagonists where criminality was defined. You know, we were engaging in Siteserv. And in fact, only a short number of days after the deal with Siteserv was done, the Taoiseach of this country was photographed in New York, you know, ringing a bell. So since then, what we've seen is a situation where companies that Mr. O'Brien has interest in have secured debt write-offs, several contracts from government with respect to the running of valuable municipal services. And indeed, on the 6th of May of this year, a motion was put forward by Fianna Fáil to ask for this commission investigation, but it was rejected by the government, and the Minister Noonan insisted that the special liquidators were the best people placed to get the answers. And since then, in fact, what we've seen is that the government have crawled back into a position where the special liquidator now only has a role of a scoping exercise. You know, the engagement of this type of politics has resulted in, you know, particularly from Labour, an ongoing virtuous blind eye, turning its back on issues of great public concern and holding on to the coattail of Fine Gael with respect to continuing to look the other way. Keaveney, the government botched up the process. Minister Noonan, while supporting the setting up of the commission, he has prejudiced the outcome of it by saying, and clearly, there's nothing to see here. And the relationship between Minister Noonan, the department and the IBRC, it needs to be looked at. It's hard to accept the contention that the Minister of State made last week, Minister Simon Harris, that Minister Noonan was ignorant of the battle that was taking place between senior officials in the Department of Finance and the IBRC. There is an increasing amount of evidence to demonstrate that, and it's in the public domain, that there was a seriously dysfunctional relationship between the bank and the department. And if Minister Noonan was ignorant of the fact, as Deputy and Minister Harris contends, then it raises significant concerns around the capacity of Minister Noonan with respect to his fiduciary responsibilities. On the day that the Taoiseach of this country deigned to comment on Siteserv, he accused people in this House of engaging in hysteria. That was the same day that a 101-year-old woman was lying for 24 hours on a trolley in an accident and emergency unit. So Cathaoirleach, due diligence with respect to €1 billion of write-offs of public monies that directly impacts the delivery of public services in this country is of significant importance. The Taoiseach's failure to show any concern with respect to IBRC, Siteserv, or that vulnerable woman who was 101 years old, 26 hours on a trolley, it demonstrates the most striking failure of this government.
Thank you, Deputy Keaveney.